So thank you for coming all this way to share with us.
And he says, clip it how you like. I think I might just carry it. Actually, do I really need a mic? I'm very used to speaking without one.
It's a lovely sit there, and okay. You can just put it up there.
I might just put it on there. Yeah. Move it if you can't. Hello, my name's Joanna Bristow-Watkins, and I'm here to talk about my experience of orbs, which I see as being signposts on our spiritual journey. It's a little bit about me. You don't need to know some of this information, but it's just to tell you that I wasn't born into a New Age family, basically. My father was a bacteriologist chemist and then a pilot instructor, and then he had a chain of travel agencies. And my own background was in psychology, and then I ran a chain of travel agencies for about 5 years in the UK, and subsequently became a trainer in industry as well, in the travel industry. So having left the industry to have my family, I discovered healing and became a Reiki and Sakhi master. And subsequently, after several trips to Egypt, I ended up taking harmony journeys, which are spiritual trips to sacred sites. And that's where I've come across these wonderful orbs. 2002 was when I bought my first digital camera. Oh, 2003, forgive me. And that coincided with a harmony journey across to Egypt. This was my first experience of orbs. This is, you can see where we are here, I hope. Pyramids in the background. And we're standing here on the roof of, this is Gouda Fayed, who owns the property where we were staying. And it's a fantastic energy on this site because behind us, I think you can just see possibly the red. Oh my, you see over there? I think that's the face of the Sphinx. If you look out of the window of his lounge, which is the floor down, you're so close to the Sphinx you can hear her breathe. That's what we say. Here's a few orbs. The children are my children. That's my husband. And we were just taking a camel ride, which goes behind the pyramids to a place called the Solar Cross. And this is an area where two, or well, more than two probably, but at least two ley lines cross. It's a very, very sacred site, and we were overwhelmed with orbs on that occasion. This is another example, same year. If any of you have been to Petra, amazing place in Oman, you walk up between two, it's like two cliff faces, it's called a Seek at the end, where you just begin to see a little snapshot of the city that's been there many hundreds of years. And as you walk up, you can just see a little glimpse of the sky through the sort of narrow crevice between the cliffs. Beautiful night sky, very, very clear. And when you get to the top, they do a special candle meditation. So Petra is also known as the Rose Red City. And this was my first experience of an orb where you can actually see a pattern in it. And we've seen many of those today and yesterday. A year later, I was taking my first group to Egypt who were actually studying with me on my own Egyptian healing system, which was developed after meeting a tribal elder in Egypt, through synchronicity, of course. And we'd just done some attunements on the roof. This is the same roof as the first picture, actually, where I was standing with Gouda. You can see the pyramids would be behind you here. It's too dark to see them. but we saw these few orbs around the head of the lady who'd just received the attunements. And at this point, I still thought that perhaps orbs were down to light effects on dust. So it was only when I spoke to one of the students who told me that he had a friend with a picture of an orb, which when it was enlarged showed a flower of life inside it. And I was so amazed because I was very familiar with the flower of life symbol. And I was completely hooked after that. Here's the camel ride on that trip out to the Solar Cross. In fact, this gentleman on the camel here, he was the one who told me about the flower of life in the orb. And before coming here, I did actually email him and see if we could get hold of that picture, but I didn't have time to contact him successfully. This is Muhammad. When my daughters met Muhammad, they didn't realize it wasn't the Muhammad. They were very, very pleased to meet him. I had to explain there were rather a few Muhammads around. But the orb here, it's got a beautiful pattern in it. And I notice, even though it's supposed to be a camel ride, he gets a horse. I've never worked that out. This is one of my first pictures that actually showed an orb in daylight. I don't know if you can see it. But this is a daylight photo with no flash. And again, this is on a spiritual trip a couple of years later. And the interesting thing about this picture is that it was taken on the way to a sacred site. So we hadn't actually done any meditations or any incantations or spiritual rituals at this point, but we were going with the intent of doing one. And in fact, this here, Hakim, he's the elder that I was talking about, the tribal elder. And his family own a date plantation. So we were just going through his date plantation to reach Abu Ghurab, which is, we believe, the start of a Fibonacci spiral. There's no time today to tell you about Fibonacci spirals. Some of you may know about them already. But we believe that there's possibly a male and female Fibonacci spiral that emanate out of Egypt. And I personally believe that they go through, the masculine one goes through the king's chamber and the feminine one goes through the queen's chamber. But the belief, Hakim's belief, is that they emanate from this point, Abu Ghurab, which is a very, very ancient sunken pillar, which we've had the pleasure of standing on, rather excitingly. This is taken from one of the chambers of the pyramids. As part of the tour, we hire the pyramids for a couple of hours, and we've been lucky to get down into the lower chamber several times. I don't know if you can see that there. It's not very distinct. But if you walk along here and you carry on to the corner, there's a tunnel. If any of you are familiar with the Flower of Life books of Drunvalo's, he talks about the fourth dimensional tunnel. And this is where it is, in the lower chamber of the Great Pyramid. And supposedly, if you go into the tunnel, you can manifest your thoughts. And Drunvalo says that's why it's closed. But in case your thoughts aren't very nice. But we've been lucky that when we've been down there, the padlock's always been unlocked. So I've been in there 3 times. This is also from the lower chamber. So again, you can see the orbs around. Amazing place. And very, very good acoustics as well down here. So we've had a lot of fun singing and chanting down here. This is another trip to the Solar Cross, but instead of seeing us on the camels now, this is us assembled actually at, or three of the group assembled at the Solar Cross, and you can see we've got an orb there. In fact, it's interesting because the orb is over this lady here, and I've got another photo with an orb over her head taken somewhere else, actually. Here's another example of us actually being on our way to a sacred site meditation. And I know it was on the way because it's dark. This was a trip that we took down to Stonehenge for the midsummer solstice. And it is open on midsummer solstice now. It's free, in fact. There's no cost to go in at the moment. But you do have to share the occasion with some 19,000 other people, many of whom have rather toxic substances burning away. So if you can live with that, it's a very, very powerful experience. And as you can see, because it's dark, I know it was on the way because we stayed until the sunrise, and by the time we walked back, it was light. So this is a very, very bright orb down here. And the next day, or later the same day, the same lady that was in Egypt has an orb over her head. And again, this is a daylight photograph with no flash. And although I haven't chosen it for this reason, you will notice that she could do with washing her feet. This is on the same tour. You may be aware that Stonehenge, Glastonbury and Avebury in the UK are sometimes considered the heart chakra of the world, the triangle, the sacred triangle. This tour took in all of those sites, and this particular photograph was taken on our way, again, to the West Kennet Long Barrow, which is close to Avebury and close to Silbury Hill. If some of you have heard of Silbury Hill, it's a very large man-made hill in the UK, which goes back at least to 5000 BC, they reckon. And you can see the orbs here are right over her heart, which is interesting. And we were on our way to the West Kennet Long Barrow, where we went in and performed a sound ceremony. And my last couple of photographs were taken very recently at the winter solstice this year. And this was a group of about 25 of us who went to light up one of the white horses. We have several white horses in the UK, and this particular one in Alton Barnes is not especially old. I think it's about 1850, something like that. But it is a very old pagan ceremony to light up the white chalk figures. And a group of like-minded people went to light up the horse. We take the little candles and the jars, and we were overwhelmed with the amount of orbs on these photographs. And you can see with that one, you can barely see anybody at all. And there's a few children here, so perhaps they're congregating with the children. But again, we had actually performed the lighting up ceremony at this point, but it was before we'd actually conducted the little meditation at the end. So in summary, orbs regularly appear on sacred site tours. Are they summoned by the ceremonies? That's one thought. It does seem that spiritual participation leads to more orbs manifesting, but there are several examples here that show orbs manifesting before the sacred ceremony has taken place. We've heard already that these may be intelligent beings, incarnate beings, so they no doubt realize a ceremony is imminent, and perhaps they come to guide us, perhaps they come to inspire us, perhaps they come to join in and participate and benefit in some way. Or another theory I've had is, could they be the higher selves? Could they be our higher selves? Could they be initiated when we are actually upping our own vibration and awakening the part of ourselves that would normally be asleep? And I think it said that 97% of us is not here. Or is that just me? Thank you. I think that's the last one. They often appear prior to the ceremony. So the hypothesis is, are they leading the ceremony? Are they witnessing? Are they a representation of our higher vibrational selves? Or are they a representation of others' higher vibrational selves? So are we summoning other like-minded people who we've networked with over the years? We've said it certainly seems that they do come in greater numbers when you open yourself up and invite them. And once you've done that, perhaps within your own energy field, you switch on some kind of light that they can see, and they know to come and congregate around you. And so maybe it is something that we manifest from ourselves in conjunction with other beings. Maybe they're angels, maybe they're spirit guides. That's it. Thank you.
Animals with your children. I thought those were beautiful photographs. So do we have Anne-Marie? Okay. So now we have Anne-Marie Tochette from North Richmond Hills.